Have you ever noticed no one in the conventional healthcare system ever asks why or makes even an attempt to find the root cause and discuss natural solutions with you? They tend to just slap on a label, hand over a prescription, and send families on their way. Autism, ADHD, anxiety, sensory processing disorder. And oftentimes it's the same thing in the natural or holistic health world. Lyme disease, MTHFR, COMT, PANS, PANDAS, all too often leaving the patient or parent feeling like they're stuck with that condition and that label now for life. The list goes on, but none of them actually answer the question every parent is desperately asking: what is really going on with my child? Labels don't heal. They don't calm the chaos. They don't help kids sleep, speak, or smile again. But that's exactly what today's system is handing out: labels instead of answers. And while, yes, these diagnoses and labels in today's system can open access to different methods of support and therapies, they're not giving direction that actually gets to the reality of what's going on. It's time we flip the script. This video is for frustrated parents who feel like they're collecting diagnoses and labels for their children without getting real answers or lasting solutions, and who are ready to understand the true root cause behind their child's health struggles, and then be able to do something about it. Now, let's start with a statistic that should absolutely shock you. 40% of children today are living with at least one chronic condition. And that's a stat from the CDC, which is a little out of date. More recent research shows that number to be above 50%. So 1 in 2 kids are chronically sick. That's simply not okay. That means nearly half of all kids are dealing with conditions like autism, ADHD, allergies, asthma, anxiety, autoimmune conditions, or other ongoing health challenges. This is a health crisis that somehow wasn't making headlines until recently, when thankfully people like Secretary Kennedy and others in the health space, they started to speak up and take action. And I hope and I pray that they do. Because even more concerning is that a meta analysis of multiple studies shows that the number of youth receiving antipsychotic medications has increased by 50% to 200% over the past 20 years. We're not just seeing more sick kids, we're seeing more kids being medicated at younger and younger ages. And this path to medication dependency starts with one thing: a diagnosis and a label. The way conventional medicine works: once they put that label on your child, the medication is the next automatic step. They don't explore root causes. They don't offer natural, nervous system focused, drug free options. And they don't even pretend to actually address the issue, they just cover it up with medication. In a world where we have more access to mental health service, more coverage to health insurance than ever before, why don't we have more health? Why do we have more depression, more anxiety, more ADHD, more suicide? The list goes on and on and on. And the reason is because they're not exploring root causes. And let me be clear: thank God we have medicine when we need it in life saving conditions. But for our health, especially for our kids' health, when we have the choice, we don't want to see them having to be dependent on drugs for life. There's got to be a better way. And there is. And we need to talk about it. But first, we're going to talk about the positive and negative side effects of, not side effects, but sides of a diagnosis. And we're going to first start by diving into how diagnoses can actually help. A diagnosis can allow access to services. There's school-based supports like IEPs, speech therapy, OT, and accommodations that may otherwise be denied. Second, it can help with insurance and state coverages. Many therapies, equipment, and interventions require a diagnosis code for health insurance or state programs to pay for them. And third, having a diagnosis can also help families communicate needs to teachers, employers, and medical professionals without constant re explaining. There's like a legitimacy and a validation occurring when a formal diagnosis is given. But fourth, when it comes to other structured support systems, a diagnosis can also connect families to specific programs, to funding, community resources that they didn't know existed. So, yes, there's a lot of good things that can come from this system of healthcare with diagnoses, with labels. But on the flip side, there's a very real reality where diagnoses and labels can limit kids' potential. And it can look like a number of different ways. First, it can cause an identity shift towards one of being towards one of being broken, an identity of brokenness. Kids and parents can start to see the diagnosis as who they are, not just what they have, which unfortunately can create a fixed mindset, which lowers their belief in their ability to heal and to grow. They start to believe that they're static and stuck instead of dynamic with the ability to heal, which the vast majority of conditions are. And so living with this belief lowers the drive, lowers the confidence and the will to go after and actually do the things that make healing happen. There's science behind this that shows that it starts with our own belief in our ability to heal, that then contributes to our ability to heal. And it works in the opposite way as well. If we believe we're stuck and can't change, that's likely to be so. Now, second, as a diagnosis, how it affects us, we as a society are dealing with a massive victim mentality. We're labeling everything and everyone, not to empower them, but to get them to think this is who you are. You can't change. Labels can unintentionally teach children to expect less of themselves, assume they can't change, and rely on others for solutions, like medications, instead of building resilience. And that leads to point number 3, where this can become a medication dependency cycle. A diagnosis often becomes the ticket to long term prescriptions, where the focus shifts to symptom management rather than root cause healing. And the number 4 reason a diagnosis is limiting is because it can narrow the lens of care you may be seeking. Providers may focus only on treatments related to that label, ignoring holistic or upstream causes. And to really bring this point across, I want to share with you a bit of my own story, where I was given a label at a very young age. I wasn't regular, I was backed up and constipated, and they told my mom I had something called Hirschsprung's, where the neurology in my intestines wasn't developing as it could and should. And so, since I had that diagnosis, the course of action was surgery at 3 months of age. They cut out my descending colon, attached the rest, and stitched me back up. I still have the scar. In the years following, I was on medications, daily Miralax. I was eating some prunes, but I was using the suppositories, the enemas, and even had to go to the hospital because I was so backed up. And they had to essentially clear me out, physically remove that junk from my body. And for the next 14 years of my life, I struggled with constipation. It wasn't until my mom started taking us to a more holistic doctor where we actually started to see some improvement, tackling it from a nutritional angle using ambertose, which helped, but I still had rough bouts of constipation. And when I think back on my story, the deeper issue happening, I wasn't interpreting the signal to use the bathroom as the signal to use the bathroom. I just thought it was something uncomfortable that I had to let pass. And I'd let it go for weeks as a kid without having a bowel movement. There's pictures of me where my stomach is like bloated out. But what got me past this struggle, I attribute it to 3 things: hydration, movement, and getting under chiropractic care. My body actually started to recognize and become aware of the signals to perform this basic function of life. And one of the comments our holistic doctor made to my mom when he heard about what I went through as a kid was, I wish I could have got my hands on it. As in, there could have been a different outcome. There's a possibility we could have had a different option and outcome than to go through with the surgery. But we didn't know because we were given a label and a system that only looked at the signs and symptoms of what was happening, not why it happened in the first place, and then approaching care to reverse the cause that led to those effects. Causes that likely started when I was brought into this world, being a big baby and having the nurse all but jump on my mom to try and get me out during birth, which probably set my nervous system into a sustained state of stress, which could have contributed to my diagnosis, which may have been reversed had something been done to affect my nervous system. I don't know that. That's speculation, but the point still stands. We were in a system where solutions were drugs and surgery, and getting the answers, help, and real healing approach and solutions required a different approach. And that's why we made it this video, because while a label or a diagnosis has its benefits, if it's not then leading to solutions and healing that truly tackles the cause of the challenges, then it's only going so far and only helping so much. And it's one thing to just say that, right? But we're here to offer real root cause, nervous system based solutions through neurologically focused chiropractic care. That's what we do here at Rising Health. We take an entirely different approach to health by looking at what creates, controls, and sustains health in the first place. We've got to look at the foundation, and that's the nervous system. So if you're tired of just getting more and more labels and then getting more and more medications, and you want to learn more about neurologically focused chiropractic care and how it may be able to help your child and family, simply click the link in our bio, comment below, or send us a DM to learn more. We're here to give you hope, answers, and help. Not a label, not another medication, but healing that happens from the inside. God put it there, and we want to help you or your child access it. If we can be of any help to you, please reach out. That's all for this one. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.